welcome back to the Tech Coaches podcast. I'm Fer, and I'm here with the password king, Bill.
Yes, and I'm happy to wear that title as long as it's either passwordless and includes multi-factor authentication. We're going to talk about more of that in just a minute.
Bill, remember when you told me that a password vault was like a magic lunchbox?
Yes, and I also remember about a week later when you called and said, now I get it, after you started putting passwords in and changing them.
That's our energy today. We're going to keep it clear, really visual, and fun.
Yes, and just a kind of a logistics note is that today we're going to be talking about multiple password managers, but we're going to concentrate primarily on Keeper by Keeper Security. We resell that for our clients. It's part of our Tech Coaches program. But if you use another password manager, just keep in mind the Q&A that we're going through and what we're talking about today. You just want to look for, are these features available in the program that I need for my particular needs? The reason we like Keeper Security is it's multilingual. It operates all over the world. There's how-to videos. There's all kinds of stuff, and it's very easy for us to get a client set up, even though, and then this is something we'll talk about, we have no access to your passwords.
So Bill, tell me, what really is a password manager?
So a password manager is a secure vault where you store lots of critical information. It used to be, way back in the day, it was really only on your single machine, and it was usernames and passwords, probably a website address. Now they store all kinds of things and do wonderful other features. So I'll give you an example. Number one, it's usernames, passwords, multi-factor authentication codes. But the other part is if you use a commercial program like Keeper, the one that we recommend, it will store files and photos and encrypt them. So if you take a picture of, say, your mortgage, it can store all of that information in there, and some of them are getting even OCR capabilities, so it can read all of the text in there when you search for something like that. It also allows you to store multiple digital identities, passport numbers, all kinds of things like that, and it will have expiration dates on things that might need to be changed on a regular basis or renewed, like a passport.
It also creates strong and long passwords for you, which if you don't have the creativity for that, which I don't, I really have a hard time creating my passwords. It helps you with that. That way you don't have to reuse the same password everywhere.
Yeah, and the other thing that's really popular, and one of the reasons that we recommend using a dedicated password manager that's not tied to one particular company like Apple or Google, is because it synchronizes on multiple devices. So you've got your usernames, passwords, etc., almost anywhere you are. So you don't have to rely on, well, my hard drive crashed and I never created that Google Sync account, so I don't have any idea what that password is anymore. So again, dedicated password managers are the way to go.
Let's talk about how password advice has changed.
Yes. So the old way that we all heard is 8 to 12 characters, and then we heard add a number, and then we heard add a special character. And if any of you have been to the presentations that I've made, you've heard me harp on this, because what we'll do is I'll have people raise their hand, and I'll say, what number did you add when you were first asked that? And this is kind of going way back in the day, and people were like, the number 1. And I'll say, okay, and when you add a special character, what special character did you add? And people would say the exclamation point. Yeah. And so hackers and the bots that they program know these things. And so we're going to talk about some new recommendations from multiple organizations. If you want to look this up, it's you can Google NIST, and there are some password rules that are changes from the way, and I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago that they released this. Long passwords, otherwise known as passphrases, can be or are much, much better than just a complicated password. I'm going to give you an example here in just a bit. You only need to change passwords nowadays as long as you've got multi-factor authentication. You only need to change passwords if there's a data breach. If not, you don't need to, because your multi-factor authentication and or passwordless is really going to help out with this. You're going to use a dedicated password manager to store and generate those passwords. And then you're always going to enable multi-factor authentication and or the passwordless login where that is available.
Okay, so basically it means you have to simplify, strengthen and
Yes.
also automate your password?
Exactly. So here's an example about how that length of the password or passphrase really matters more than the complexity. There's a great cartoon, I guess, from XKCD many years ago that helped me understand the math behind it. But a password or a passphrase like correct, and I got to read this, correct horse battery staple, is easier for you to remember. And believe it or not, it's harder to crack, even though it's using plain English language. But you've probably been told in the past that you need to use something like capital X, percentage sign, the number 8, lowercase y, z, exclamation point, lowercase d, and the number 2, something crazy like that, and then change it every 90 days. But here's the wild part. The very first one that starts with correct horse, that takes centuries to crack using modern cracking tools, whereas the one that looks crazy that starts with the capital X only takes 1 day. Yeah.
So now that you're explaining all this, where are people still hesitant to change to a password manager?
Well, we know it's tough to get people to change anyway. They might feel a little bit intimidated about it. The good part about a lot of these is they have how-to videos. It's super easy to get started. But I think the other reason is because they don't want to, they think of it as this is one more thing to deal with. But once people start to use a password manager, it's much, much easier and you feel more confident because you know your passwords are unique. If there's ever a breach, you're told about it and you can immediately change it. Some of them will even change it for you. And you're not waiting to get fire insurance until a fire occurs. Okay. And so I highly recommend setting aside like an hour on a Saturday to very first get set up. You can get set up as little as 10 or 15 minutes. But if you really want to do it the right way, it's going to take about an hour, and then you review this stuff quarterly.
All right, Bill. Let's break down some of the questions we keep getting about passwords and password managers. The first one would be, can I trust just one app with all my passwords?
Yes. So first, if you are really curious about this and you want to know the deep background, ask ChatGPT or one of your AI tools, or Google it, and it'll give you all the details. But the short answer is yes. It is much safer than a notebook, much safer than a password-protected Excel file, etc. So I'm going to answer that with a very brief, yes, it is, and you can easily Google why.
So now we go to, if you have bad memory, let's say you could be like an older person or someone that gets distracted really easily. What would happen if I forget my master password?
Okay, so if you forget your master password, there's kind of two scenarios here. The first one is you took the time to create account recovery, which should be a part of your setup process. So when you very first create your Keeper account, for example, you're going to go through the account recovery, and that could be a trusted contact. It could be a way to recover it with some passphrases that are stored in another system. But you can do that. That's the easiest way to get it done. The thing that you need to be worried about is that, let's say somebody buys Keeper through us. We don't have access to any of the information, and nor does Keeper. So whatever password manager somebody uses, if you forget that master password, all that data is gone. So you really want to go through account recovery when you get set up, and then you might want to do an annual review when you're reviewing things like, have I updated my will? Have I, changed my trusted contacts if there are any changes, et cetera, et cetera.
And also to add something there, two things actually. The first one is also if there's a company account that it's managing the workers and their accounts, they still are not able to enter your personal passwords and login information and stuff like that. And the second one is one of our previous episodes, we're talking about account recovery.
Yes.
And if you want to get tips about how to do it better and stuff like that, we're going to put a link below. That way you can go there and check it will be a good process to prepare that account recovery for all of your accounts.
Yes. And to add on to your first item, if you get your Keeper account or whatever the password management tool is from a company, and then you leave that company, if you use your personal vault, you can have your company disassociate you from them and still keep the passwords that are your personal items and save that and just buy a paid program that is one of the personal programs.
So the next question would be, let's say I didn't know about password managers. I'm
Right.
starting into this new life of being safe online. Would you say built-in apps like Apple or Chrome would be enough or safe for anyone to use?
The answer is it depends. So if you're a person that manages like 10 programs and you're always going to use a Windows PC and you're always going to use an iPhone, then yes, you could do something like that. However, we try to plan for contingencies so that in the event someone wants to switch from Windows to Mac, or they want to stop wanting to use one particular web browser because it has 0-day breaches like Chrome does on a regular basis, we recommend a regular standalone password manager. The reason why is because it works on all the platforms, it synchronizes the data on all of them, and it's essentially your data that can move from point to point. And it doesn't matter whether you have an Apple iPhone or whether you have an Android phone. So I would recommend that you only import the passwords from Chrome and from some of these other browsers into a password manager like Keeper. Then you delete it and you're done and you're only using a program like Keeper.
Okay. And the next question would be, why do people get so overwhelmed with passwords? Like sometimes I ask my parents or my grandparents about how safe their passwords are because I've learned with you about how to keep safe and all that.
Yeah.
Why do people get so like freaked out and scared about it?
Well, I think it gets back to this. It seems a bit intimidating. I've never used a program like this before, so I don't know how to use it, et cetera, et cetera. So again, there's plenty of onboarding. We do it for our clients. There's plenty of watch it on your own videos for how to use something like that. But if you think about just the volume of information that you manage on a regular basis, it's a ton. And so it's not just your Gmail login, for example, and it's not just your login to certain websites. It's things like your bank information, your mortgage stuff. It could be things related, in my case, because now I'm in Mexico, my immigration information. So like because I am a non-resident down here. So storing all of that, storing my bank account numbers, my credit cards, you name it, all of those things now can be stored in password management programs. And it can seem a bit intimidating to get it set up, but again, it's worth the time because the time that you spend setting it up will amaze you once you use the browser plugins and the programs at how fast you get logged in to other systems. And once you do it, you'll think, why didn't I do this before? Like that's probably the most common saying I get after people start to use it is, why didn't I use this before? Or sometimes they say, Bill, why didn't you tell me about this before?
Now that you're saying that, I was like thinking about all the things I could put on one of those. And honestly, it does feel really overwhelming. But as you were saying, like, um, it takes a bit of time at the start. But I was thinking, what if you get hacked and all those things get like outside to the world? It'll take even longer to get all that information back.
Yes.
Change all those passwords anyway, and then trying to fix all the issues you may be getting from being hacked. So in the end, like it will be even longer to fix the issue than just like trying to prevent it.
Yeah. If you can go ahead and get things in there now, then you've got them managed. And so we often watch movies where people talk about getting their affairs in order. This is getting your affairs in order. It's just we live in a new world now where lots of the things are digital and they're scannable and they can all be put in a program like this.
But now knowing about all these password managers and how to do like the best passwords possible, why would you say people are still being phished?
Well, because what the phishing emails are trying to do is they're trying to get you to give up your credentials, your username and your password, basically your access into other systems. So they can then impersonate you, or they can ask a relative to send you money because you're in you had a car accident, something like that. So it's a good combination to not only get your items in a password manager, but then also have a continuing education. So you're making yourself aware of how people are being compromised through business email compromise, now text messaging, WhatsApp messaging, you name it. So it's a combination of good hygiene, and that would include the password management and those tools, along with continuing education, which they can get from us.
We have a good training program. Just
Yes.
letting you know, I already took it.
Yes.
Okay, so the next question would be, and this is where I go into the seller cap.
Yes.
Why would people benefit of getting Keeper instead of a free program?
Yeah, so the Google Chrome password manager is free. Chrome's free. The Apple, the new iPhone, has some free ones. The catch is, if you're a business, you don't get some advanced features like auditing. So in the event that you have an employee go rogue that has access to your password manager and then goes and changes passwords, you need an audit log to figure out what happened and can I change them back. The other thing, the free programs don't often allow you to scan documents like a mortgage file or a contract and put it inside the system. Those free programs might be okay if you've got like 10 things to manage, but most people have many, many more things to manage. And depending on how your sort of relationship dynamic is in your family, you might be managing things for your parents, an aunt, an uncle, your children, etc. So you need those advanced features like sharing with date limitations on there and some other features like that. So the other reason is the cost is incredibly low. Like our starting plan includes Keeper, and it's currently $49 per month, and it covers 5 devices. So if you buy the program individually, I think it's under $10 per month. So the cost is really negligible to get some of the advanced features. So if you're in a compliance industry or you manage a lot of info for your whole family, I would definitely go with the paid version and the business version.
So now I have a question that I've been driving since the start of our video.
Yeah.
And it is, what does passwordless mean? Like, what do you mean when you say, like, I'm the king of passwordless? And
Well, so it doesn't. First thing, what it doesn't mean you don't have a password. What it means is that you're using another tool like Face ID, a fingerprint, some other form of biometric identification. And it can happen with a good password manager and also a site, if it's a website, for example, that allows you to use those things. So let's say I'm logging into Google, a Gmail account or Facebook or some system like that. I'll put in my username, my password, and my multi-factor authentication. What can then happen is that system can say, or the password manager system can say, do you want to use a passkey or passwordless? And if you say yes, then at that point it's going to say, okay, click here to allow it, scan this QR code, open it up, and do your Face ID. And what that does is I won't explain all the nerdy tech stuff, but it communicates with the system to say, okay, that username, that password, and that multi-factor authentication is from a trusted device. It's definitely Fernanda, and we can go ahead and let her in. Because we're all tired of managing all these things, and what we want to do is make it as fast as possible. It's much faster, much easier, and also much safer.
And now going to the side of, let's say, one of my friends come to my house and I want to share my Wi-Fi password, or maybe I'm managing something for someone else and we need to share certain information that we have on the password managers. Can we safely share credentials with someone else?
Yes, you can. So something like your Wi-Fi password, pretty easy. You do a share and they put it in their system and you're okay. It gets a little more complicated when you're sharing something, let's say in a corporate environment where somebody had a firewall and it only had one username and password. Well, the client needs it, even though many clients don't think they need it if they use a company like us. But I'm going to say, yes, you need to be vendor agnostic the whole time. So you need it as a client or as the owner, and then we might need access in the event we have to get in and do some work for it, or whoever we manage for you comes in and does that work. So you're going to set up sharing. You're going to make sure that you validate that the request came from the person who's asking for it. So if you sent me a text saying, hey, can you send me this? I would call you up and say, hey, Fernanda, are you really asking for this? And I'm going to know her voice, or I'm going to see her face to face, and then the answer is going to be yes. Then the other thing that I would do is put a time limit on that sharing. And the reason why is because in the event you you leave the company, that share goes away. But another thing that a lot of people don't talk about is in the event you left the company and you had access to that share, what if you wrote it down someplace? So one of the other practices that we recommend is that if you are sharing information, that if Fernanda ever leaves the company for whatever reason, that we know what we've shared with her, and then we go into those systems and change those passwords. Because although it's technically not a data breach, you've not done anything bad, it's just a good practice. And it's very easy to do as well.
And going now to our last question. Let's say there's people that already watched this video. They were using the Apple one or maybe the Google one, or they didn't have like a password manager.
Yeah.
Or maybe they have another one, but they like more the benefits we have with Keeper. How easy or is it possible to switch managers, to change to another manager?
Yeah, so you can export from one password manager, from the good password managers, and then from there you're going to export, and it's either going to go directly into the password manager. So if you were, for example, you got a bunch of passwords in Google Chrome and you need to put it into Keeper, that's an automated process that Keeper set up to be able to pull those passwords in a secure manner. And then what you need to do is go into Google Chrome and delete all those passwords, because we only want those passwords in one spot. Then the other thing is sometimes you can export, let's say you've got password manager A and you want to put it into password manager B. You're going to export that file. And then once you import it into password manager B, your new one, you need to securely delete or wipe that file. So that way nobody can recover it. And you can Google how to do it, or you can reach out to us and we'll tell you like what apps that we would recommend. And it's going to depend on whether you've got a Mac or whether you've got a Windows PC, for which programs will do that secure deletion for you. But yeah, you can definitely import for sure and switch.
So this is where we go to my favorite part. I always say it, and I'm going to say it every single episode, but this is the Hall of Shame, password deletion. Let's call out some common password fails.
Okay.
The first one I will say is I use the same password for everything.
Yeah, so that we hear that from a lot of people. We also hear you're recycling like 4 passwords on a regular basis. That is horrible to do. It's not as bad as using like password 123, but it is horrible to do because what can happen in that situation, even if you've got multi-factor authentication turned on, is that you're going to get a lot of dings for somebody to for you to acknowledge that multi-factor authentication. And a lot of people do that by default. So what you need is you need a unique password for every site along with that multi-factor authentication. So it's much better to take the time, set these systems up, and then that way you don't have that situation where you just blindly acknowledge that, yes, I'm trying to log in. Unfortunately, that happens way too often.
The next one would be I just tweak or change one number or letter every time I need to update the password.
Yes. So lots of people do that, especially in companies where they say you have to change the password regularly. And what happens is a very simple example. This month that we're recording, this is August. They may choose August 2025, exclamation point. Mm-hmm. And then if next month is the month that they have to change their password, they go to October 2025, exclamation point. Very easy to guess. So I would definitely make sure that if you do have to change your password, you use your password manager to create a unique and complex password and store it in there. Don't make these I tweak one number thing or I add a different special character. It's going to be hard to remember, or it's going to be way too easy to guess.
And let me just say, September.
Yes, sorry.
I just have to say. Okay, and the last one, I will say I write them all down in a notebook that I carry around everywhere.
Yes. Well, hopefully there will never be a fire or water damage, or it doesn't fly out the window if your car windows are down or anything like that. A notebook is better than nothing because it's better than the human memory. However, a password manager at its cost and all the things that it does is way simpler than managing a bunch of documents or a notebook or a combination of all of those things, which can easily be damaged in some natural disaster or just by
stolen.
spilling coffee on it, something like that.
And it can be stolen if you have a password manager, unless you give them your password, which is a big no-no.
Yeah, there are actually books, and I thought they were gag gifts at first, called My Password Notebook, that are for sale in certain bookstores in the U.S.
I know multiple people that will get one of them, which I always say, don't do that.
Yes.
Okay, this is where we pass to the next part, why you need a password manager. So, Bill, tell us, what's the better way?
So the better way is this. So you're going to get the password manager, and it's going to strengthen your defenses, lower your risk for being hacked. It's going to make your life easier because as more and more of these systems move to passwordless and passkeys, it's faster and faster to get into these systems, lowering the barrier and some of that hesitation that we have mentally to get into these systems, like, I've got to use this login, this password, then the multi-factor, and all these other things. It's going to make your life a lot easier when you start using a dedicated password manager.
And also, if you get one, there are some of the benefits you get. Let me read them to you. That's why I'm not looking at you. So the first one you will be getting is cross-device syncing. So that will mean that you will have it on your computer, you can have it on your iPad, on your mobile phone, even on the web. That way, if you're using Safari or Chrome, you will be able to just autofill the passwords. The next one is, I think, really great for people that like to keep things organized. You can organize easily with categories like web logins, bank info, personal information, passport information. Also, it has dark web breach alerts, which I think is great because sometimes you're not like up to date with those stuff. So when you go in the app, it will tell you you need to change this password because it was found in a breach, let's say 2 days ago, stuff like that. So I think that is a really good benefit from it. Also,
and some of them will actually help you change the password. So that makes it really, really easy.
The other one I already told that I think is one of my favorites is that it has an auto password generation and updating, which for people like me that don't have the creativity for that, it's a great option. And the last one, which we already talked about a little bit, is emergency access. You can get people as emergency contacts in case you forget like the master password. And you can also put another like recovery options, which, as we said before, we have a video of that. If you want to know how to do it, we'll put the link below.
Yes. And I also want to add in more and more of these are doing the multi-factor authentication, which is really great. Some people don't like that. I absolutely love it because, again, it's still safer than a notebook or an Excel file. Yeah, so people often want to know what are some of the, not only the Hall of Shame items, but a real life story, like how we've been able to help someone with this. And unfortunately, I've had too many situations where there have been people who use the same Facebook password for their Gmail, and everything gets hacked. And if you've ever tried to recover a Facebook account or any of these large data systems, whether it's Google, Facebook, for those of you who are younger or maybe even older but don't have it all set up, TikTok, Instagram, you name it, lots of these platforms, you're not really going to be able to recover all of these unless you really get into the account recovery tools. And so what happens is I have to be the bearer of bad news to say you're just not ever going to get back into this system. You have to either create a new profile, which means they could lose all of their pictures, they could lose their photos, etc. The other thing that happens is sometimes they don't go through account recovery, and they think, oh, well, I bought that system or somebody recommended this system. There's got to be a way to recover it. No, the whole purpose of these things is so people don't get the info. So the biggest issue is not doing it correctly, which is, again, we could have a whole episode on this, is badly implemented use of the technology. So if you set it up correctly and then you have good digital hygiene, you're not going to have any problems. But some of these are really bad. I had to sit in front of a lawyer one time with a girl who had an ex-boyfriend, and he had access to her Facebook password, and that was also her Gmail. And I won't go into all the details, but I will say it was a very bad situation. And there are laws now that protect against some of those things, at least laws in the U.S. That are protecting some of these like horror stories.
And I think this is where I add. Normally, people will be talking about when kids go to school, they don't get teach about taxes and stuff like that. But we also don't get teach about how to be safe online. And
Right.
now we can say that almost all of our life, or at least half our lives, are online. Like everything, you have it on your phone, on your computer. So you need to start teaching your kids, the older people in your life that may not have this knowledge, about how to keep themselves safe, how to be really careful with passwords. Even I will say start like implementing a family password manager where like you can pay a lower price for a group manager and have everyone use it daily, because you never know when one of your kids may need something like that and be safe. Something I was talking to Bill before we started recording a video is that kids these days sometimes like to play with other friends and share their own like accounts, and then you will see one of the friends writing something on, let's say, their Instagram or their Facebook, like posting something silly, but you never know when the people you may be sharing that information with could be malicious and publish stuff that will affect you or like hurt people in your life.
Exactly.
So I will say, like, we will recommend to share this video or at least pass the information to others. That way they can also keep themselves like really updated with all this stuff. And also I would like to add a story that happened to me actually yesterday. Now that we were like recording, I remember it. A friend of mine, I'm not going to say who, but if she watches this video, she'll know I'm talking about her. Yesterday, she was sending me a bunch of videos on Instagram, and at one point during the day, I saw that her account didn't exist anymore. I even saw it and I was like, did she block me? I got into our conversation, nothing appeared. And I remember sending her a screenshot, being like, what did you do? Where are you? And she was like, what happened? She noticed that her account was reported. We don't know why, we don't know the reason, but when she tried to get her account back, she didn't remember her password. So the thing is, when she tried to like recover her password or change it, because her account was suspended, it didn't even let her try to do it. It said the account doesn't exist. She was like going crazy because she was like, I have a lot of videos there, like posts, and there are like a lot of sentimental information on these accounts. So she was like, I don't know what else to do. Like, we had to go through a whole process that we may talk about stuff like this in the future. She was able to recover it, but this is where we go back to, if you have a password manager, if you have all these health tips about your passwords, you may be able to avoid issues like this from happening in the future.
Yes, for sure.
And now we pass to our next chapter, setting up your strategy.
All right, so if you're ready to get started, it's super simple. Here's the playbook. You're going to choose a solid password manager, and again, you know that
we recommend paper.
Yes, exactly. Then you're going to create that account with a strong and memorable passphrase so that you can get into the system.
Let me give my example. Password 1, 2, 3.
Yes. Then it will tell you need to have multi-factor authentication enabled. And if it doesn't, then you need to go to the setting and enable that. And that's going to be really, really key. Then start importing it from other programs like that Google Chrome password manager that we talked about before, and any other existing password managers, and then get rid of those passwords once it's successfully imported. Then you're going to run a health check like a dark web scan if the program allows it. And then you're going to fix any of the passwords that show up as weak or reused. And again, that's where you spend an hour or two on a Saturday. Then naturally, as part of the setup process, create that account recovery for sure. Sometimes that's just codes. Sometimes it's trusted contact. Sometimes it's both. And that's what you need to do to get started.
And also, as a recommendation, you should be checking back monthly or let's say
Yeah.
quarterly the most to make sure your backups, the breach alerts, anything new in your vault would be updated. For example, for breach alerts, sometimes the password manager will let you know this password was found in the dark web 3 days ago, and even as Bill said before, give you the option to update it right there. So that should be something you need to keep an eye on to make sure that everything is up to date and correct.
Exactly.
Let's close out by busting some myths.
All right. So the first one might be password managers aren't secure. That is untrue. They are encrypted, and like we said before, the vendors can't get into it. We can't get into it. It's way safer than the human memory for managing the 100+ accounts we know you probably have, written notes, or a password manager, or sorry, not a password manager, but a password protected Excel file.
Another one would be if the app shuts down and logged out, you can export your vault quarterly. Something that we recommended on the auto recovery video is you can print it out and put it on your safe. Bill said also you can put it in a USB that is protected by a password and maybe give it to an attorney that may have your will or someone that you really trust. That way you can always like have an option to get it back in case you don't have an account recovery option. But I will say always try to remember your master password.
Always. And the final one is if people think it's too technical, and I can tell you, if you've got a phone, this setting up the account will take about 10 minutes. And then the part that takes a little bit longer is importing and correcting, as I mentioned before. But setting up the account, piece of cake. Download it from the App Store, whether it's the Mac store, the Windows Store, directly from the website of the vendor or one of the mobile device stores, and that's going to get you started. Then you're going to import those things and everything I mentioned just a few minutes ago.
And I will say, if you think this is too technical, try getting your accounts back and fixing any issue a hacker may have done.
No doubt. It's a lot harder to recover from it than getting it set up in the first place.
And now we get to the moment of the video. This is our final takeaways.
Yes.
Bill, do you have any last words of wisdom for this chapter?
Yeah, so like we were just talking about, don't wait until you get hacked to get started. Go ahead and get started as soon as you can. If you need some hand-holding and some advice, reach out to us. As part of our offer, we will not only take you through what it is, we can do an on-screen demo, show you how quick, and help you get set up with something like that. Whether you are an existing client or whether you are a client that or someone thinking about becoming a client, that's a big deal. And then once you have it, you're probably going to say, why didn't I start using this way earlier in life?
And that's it for this episode. If you know someone that is still using the password 12345 exclamation point, send them this video. Also, if you have any topics you would like us to talk about, put it down in the comments below. And also, if you like it and you like the tips we gave you and all this information, give us a like.
Yes. Seriously, we'll see you next time. We're going to dive into backups and disaster recovery. And we want to help as many people as possible. So if you like this video, in addition to liking it, because that helps us, forward it on to a friend, especially people who have a lot of information that they constantly get frustrated with how they manage their passwords and their secure data. It's a super easy system to implement. You just have to take the time. And once you do, you'll never look back. Have a great day.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Bye.